In this video, we're going to look at an Excel exercise involving ifs and the solution to a quadratic formula. So the basic scenario is from like general physics. We're throwing some object in the air, some projectile, and we're going to just imagine throwing it straight up and straight down, but it doesn't matter if it's thrown horizontally. The basic idea is that we're going to look at different heights. And so for some heights, we will find two times at which it reaches that height. And that's two solutions to a quadratic formula. But if the height is high enough, we will find that there are no solutions. And then there's this uh, sort of one precise point where there's one solution. So there'll be two solutions, two times where it reaches that height, one time where it reaches that height. We probably won't see that in Excel. And then times when we get no answer at all, there are no times. So here we go. So we have this data. We have, turns out, so we're just going to treat it like it's A, B, and C of a quadratic formula, AX squared, sort of, what does a quadratic formula look like? AX squared plus BX plus C equals 0. So that's some quadratic formula. So the A happens to be in this physics problem half of G, the acceleration due to gravity. So that's 4.9. So we're just putting 4.97. It's in this particular physics problem, this A is always 4.9 here on the surface of the Earth, but we could just imagine these are different A, B's, and C's of a quadratic formula. The B happens to be the velocity which we throw it up. We're going to keep that constant. And in our formula, this ends up to be a negative 15. And then C is this height. So we're going to do various heights sort of at the ground level that it was thrown at. What's this? 10 centimeters up, 20 centimeters up, and so on. Okay. So that's the idea. What are the solutions? When there are solutions, we want them. And we also want to know when there aren't solutions. So the big problem of whether or not there's solutions is this square root part. We only want to take the square root to get a real solution. We only want to take the square root when this quantity is positive. So first I'm going to do is calculate that quantity. And so I set it up so that the B of the quadratic formula is in column B, just to sort of make it a little easier to think about. So it's B squared, so that'll be this B9, and square that. So caret 2, and then I'm subtracting 4 times A9 times C9. And there we go. So we have this quantity, B squared minus 4AC, and all the nines because they're Excel cells in the Excel spreadsheet in row 9. I don't want any dollar signs because I want this to adjust as I copy down. And I could double click or pull it down. I drag this time. Okay, there we go. So sometimes that quantity is negative. We don't want a solution then. And sometimes that's quantity is positive, and we do want a solution at that point. Okay. And so now we want to have an if that asks whether or not there's a solution, and then we'll modify it. And when there is a solution, we will get said solution. Okay. So in Excel, you want to do something, start with an equal. We're going to ask a question. So that's an if. And then thought I was done. I am not. So there are 3 parts to an if: the question, what you want to do if it's true, what you want to do if it's false. So I want to know if this quantity, this so-called discriminant in D is positive, and positive means greater than 0. So our logical tests, our true or false question, is usually something about either being greater than, less than, or equal to. This is a We want it to be positive, and that means greater than 0. So my question is this D greater than 0? And I could do greater than or equal to. I'm probably never going to get exactly equal, so it probably doesn't matter anyway. And then what do I want to do if it's true? Let's start off easy and just say a solution and no solution. So if I want words, I put them in quotes. So I'm just going to start with words and then I will build up. So here's my if. If D9, that's the B squared minus 4AC, if that's greater than 0, then I'm going to say there's a solution. Otherwise, I'm going to say there's no solution. So we enter that. And there we go. So for the first one, there's a solution, and I copy it down. And we see for the negatives, there's no solution. And then at some point, when it was switched from positives to negatives, we went from solution to no solution. Okay. Now let's come in, and our if is good. We asked our true false question, our logical test. We said something we want to do if it's true, something we want to do if it's false. Now we just want to dress up, make something fancier for the true part. So I'm going to come in and take out solution and, of course, the quotes. Quotes are for just words. That's sort of literal if you want just literally the word. But we will now want, if there is a solution, I want the solution. So let's take that out, but I still left the space for it. It's still the question, comma, comma, and then what I want to do if it's false, say no solution. And then I want to start filling this in. So I have this quadratic formula, x equals, so I don't need the x, but I want to, and I don't need the equal because the equal belonged to the if, but it's minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay. I have in the formula as it's written here, I have this sort of vertical fraction. And so it's the whole numerator divided by the whole fraction. And so what I want to do to make sure that I sort of get this right is give myself a set of parentheses for the numerator, the slash for the division, and then another set of parentheses for the denominator. So it's the whole numerator divided by the whole denominator. Okay, let's do the denominator. That's easy. That's 2 times A. I'm in row 9, and so it's A9. Okay, now let's go after that numerator. So it was minus B minus, I'm in row 9, so it was B9. And now there are 2 solutions. And it's asking me in this column, in column E, it wants the negative solution. So I'm going to do minus B minus, and then I'm going to do a square root. So I'm going to use the SQRT function. And then it is the square root of B squared minus 4AC, but I already have B squared minus 4AC in column D, so I'm going to take advantage of that and go here D. Okay, so I had my question. If overall, my logical test, my true false question was if D9 was greater than 0, if the discriminant was greater than 0. We know that worked. We know the false part is just no solution. And then here is the calculation for the solution when we have one. One of the roots, one of the solutions is minus b minus the square root of that quantity that we already calculated in cell D9. And then that whole numerator got divided by the whole denominator, which was 2a. So hence our parentheses. We're entering that. And I'm going to come over here, have that cell. I'm in that cell. I'm going to move to the corner, the lower right. My fat cross turns into a thin cross. I'm going to double click. And now I'm getting a calculation. Somewhere down here, I gave myself a test. So in this cell, one of my solutions I'm expecting is 0.380, and that I do have that solution. So good. This is testing out. Okay. Now I just want to go and get the other solution. So I can just sort of start all over again and type it. I'm going to drag over, see how Excel changes it, and then change it, change what I need to change. Okay, so when I drag it over like that, what did it do? It turned my question about, which was about D9 to A9, because I didn't put any dollar sign in there. So I'm going to take that back to D9. Okay. And we know that the formula was uh, B, and it was square root of D, and it was 2A in the denominator. So I put all those things back. I could have achieved that if I were smarter and did this in advance. And I could have put dollar signs in front of the letters so that when I pulled across, the letter stayed put. But I didn't do that. Okay. So now this is just now all I've done is duplicate the same solution. That's really not what I want. But I want to do the other root, the other solution, which is minus b plus. I'm going to change this before the square root to a plus. Enter that, get my thin cross, double click, copy that down, and that is my other solution. So at this height of, I guess, what is that, 5 meters, the time at which that projectile was at 5 meters was 0.381 of a second and 2.681 of a second. Okay, that's what I wanted to show here. Just this, uh, a fairly sophisticated if, but it's only a single question if this uh, quantity in D is greater than zero. So it's not too complicated of an if, but it is a combination of a calculation and words. So you can do calculation, you can do word. That's how we started. You can do two calculations, you can do a calculation word. You can do any kind of mixture of these things. All right. That's it for this one. Thanks for your attention.